The Fairground Ghost. As you listen to the story, try reading along in your own book. When you hear this sound, turn the page. Chapter 1. All the Fun of the Fair. On Friday, Jake Cupboard saw a poster on his way to school. The fair was in town.
That sounds fun.
That night, Jake was so excited he could hardly sleep. The next day was Saturday. At last, he could go to the fair. But first, he had to find someone to go with him.
I think I'll ask Dad.
Sorry, Jake, I'm busy.
Oh, Dad, please.
Dad wasn't even dressed. How could he be busy? Dad shook his paper at Jake. Jake tried his mother.
Will you take me to the fair, please?
Sorry, I can't, Jake.
There are 70 great attractions,
Jake told her.
And I've got 70 great piles of washing to iron,
she said.
Why not ask your sister?
Jake made a face. His sister Marcia spent the whole time on the phone. But he had to find someone to go with. He went to ask Marcia.
Will you take me to the fair, Marcia?
Maybe. I'll just call Brad. Brad was Marcia's boyfriend. Jake groaned. She could be on the phone for hours.
But it's open now,
Jake said. Marcia glared at him.
It shuts at 10,
Jake added.
Shh,
said Marcia.
Shh, I can't hear Brad.
Jake held his breath. He counted to 10. He counted to 10 again. At last, Marcia looked up.
Okay, Pest,
she said.
We'll take you. Hooray!
Jake ran to his piggy bank and shook out the coins. He was going to the fair. Chapter 2. Ghost Train. Jake, Marcia, and Brad walked into the fairground. Lights flashed. People laughed. 20 different pop songs blared out at once.
Look over there!
Marcia and Brad headed straight for the Tunnel of Love.
Yuck,
said Jake.
That's silly.
Jake wanted something scary. In fact, Jake wanted something really scary. Jake found a sign which pointed to 5 attractions. He knew the ride for him, the ghost train. It sounded perfect. He soon found the ghost train and climbed aboard. With a lurch, the train began to move into a tunnel. Suddenly, the train was in darkness. Glowing ghouls and scary skeletons jumped out of the blackness. People shrieked. The ghosts moaned back. Jake was delighted. He'd wanted a scary ride, and this was very, very scary. He was so busy watching a vampire leap from its coffin, he didn't see what was lurking behind him. Jake screamed. He was so scared, his goosebumps had goosebumps. Then the train went around the final bend and out popped a little ghost. But the little ghost wasn't scary. The little ghost was the funniest thing Jake had ever seen. Chapter 3. The Scarrow Meter. Jake was still laughing as he left the train.
What's so funny?
asked a man with a clipboard.
What could make you laugh on a ghost train?
The little ghost,
gasped Jake. He hadn't seen the man's badge. He didn't know the man was a ghost inspector. The man sounded cross. Jake was worried.
This ghost must be measured on my scarometer at once.
The ghost inspector went to see the owner of the ghost train.
Did you know you have a funny ghost on your ghost train?
He said.
I want to see that ghost now.
The owner of the ghost train was surprised, but he couldn't argue with the ghost inspector, so he called for the little ghost.
Ghost, are you in there? Get out here now!
Jake began to wish he hadn't laughed. The ghost inspector was looking very angry indeed.
Wait till I test that ghost on my scarometer,
he said. The little ghost appeared. It didn't look so funny now.
Out you go,
said the owner of the ghost train.
You have to be tested.
The little ghost was terrified. Jake could hardly bear to watch. What would happen to the little ghost if it failed the test? Chapter 4. Ghost Test. The ghost inspector held up his scarometer.
Be as scary as you can,
he said to the little ghost. The little ghost took a deep breath and screamed. The arrow on the scarometer quivered. Was the little ghost scary? The inspector checked.
Just as I thought,
he said.
Not scary at all.
Get out!
The owner of the ghost train shouted at the little ghost.
And don't come back! No funny ghosts allowed on my train,
he added.
Quite right, too,
said the ghost inspector.
Funny ghosts indeed. Whatever next?
The little ghost started to glide sadly away. Jake ran after it.
Wait!
He shouted.
Hey, don't go!
He tried to catch hold of the little ghost.
Don't be sad,
Jake said when he caught up with the ghost.
This is a fun fair. Why not stay and have some fun? Come on, what shall we do first?
Chapter 5. Fairscare. Jake decided to take the ghost for a ride. No one could be sad on a merry-go-round. Jake was right. The little ghost wasn't sad. It was scared to death. Jake decided to try the roller coaster instead. The little ghost wasn't sure.
Well,
it said. Jake dragged it along.
It's so exciting. Just wait till you get on. You'll love it,
Jake said. Jake was right. At first, the little ghost did love it.
This is fun,
it said as it sat down. Then the ride started. Jake was thrilled. They curved around corners and looped the loop. He whooped with delight. The little ghost did not whoop. It turned green. Jake waved to everyone in the fairground below. The little ghost couldn't look. For the rest of the ride, it kept its eyes shut tight.
Whoopee! Stop! I want to get off!
The little ghost left the roller coaster a very sorry spook. Jake thought hard. He had to cheer up his new friend. But how? Just then, he had an idea.
I've got it! Follow me!
Chapter 6. A Huge Scary Ghost. Jake was so excited he started to run. The little ghost pulled back.
Where are we going?
It asked.
Promise it's not scary. I promise,
said Jake.
Now close your eyes,
he added.
Are you sure it's not scary?
Asked the shivering spook.
No scarier than you are,
said Jake. The little ghost wasn't convinced.
Where are we?
The little ghost whimpered.
Nearly there,
said Jake.
You can open your eyes. Now!
Screamed the little ghost as it caught sight of its own reflection. It rushed out of the tent, wailing at the top of its voice. The eerie howls of the little ghost echoed around the fairground. Nearly everyone was terrified. Jake ran after the little ghost.
Come back!
He cried.
I can't,
said the little ghost.
That huge scary ghost will catch me. That huge scary ghost was you. Scary? Me?
The little ghost stopped suddenly. Was Jake right?
That scary ghost was me? Really? Are you sure? Me?
It babbled. Jake and the little ghost went to find the owner of the ghost train. Perhaps he would give the little ghost another chance.
Won't you take it back now you've heard how scary it is?
But the owner of the ghost train hadn't even noticed the little ghost terrify the fairground.
What did you say? I can't hear a word.
Jake pleaded with the man to test the ghost again with the Scarrow meter. The man agreed, although he thought it would be a waste of time.
Okay, but it doesn't seem any different to me.
Just do what you did when you saw the scary ghost in the mirror.
Everyone watched as Jake held up the Scarrow meter. The little ghost took a deep breath, lifted its arms, and screamed. It was a blood-curdling scream. Even Dracula was scared. The ghost inspector had to admit that the little ghost was terrifying. The owner of the ghost train was delighted.
Look at that,
he said to the ghost inspector.
Welcome back,
he said to the ghost.
You'll be the new star of the show.
Everyone was delighted to have the little ghost back. Well, almost everyone. With the little ghost back and scarier than it had ever been, the ghost train became the busiest ride in the fairground. People stood for hours just to see the little ghost. Some people were so scared they came out looking like the zombies inside. Then they staggered around the fairground with their knees knocking before going back for another turn. The little ghost had never been happier or scarier. As for Jake, he got every ride free, thanks to his friend, the Fairground Ghost.